Today, a top Pentagon official warns ISIS-K could be ready to attack the West in just 6 months. Will Biden's social justice spending bill fall flat? And an FDA doctor says the only way to learn about COVID in children is to just start giving it. That sounds familiar. We've got a lot coming up on the show today, and it all starts right now. Hey, welcome to the news and why it matters. I am Sarah Gonzalez. Today, we've got a jam-packed show for you. And in studio, I am joined by Jason Buttrell, chief researcher of the Glenn Beck program, along with Savannah Hernandez. I always want to call you a different last name. Savannah Hernandez, who is, of course, the producer of Slightly Offensive. And we are very, very happy to be joined remotely by Sean Spicer, of course, Newsmax host, but also author of the new book you need to get. It is called Radical Nation, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's Dangerous Plan for America. Sean, thank you so much for being here and joining us. It could not have come at a more, a better time. So let's get into, actually, Sean, I'm going to go to you on this first topic because, like I said, I think it's a perfect day for you to be on our show. We're talking about the Undersecretary of Defense for Policy, Colin Kahl, who told the Senate Armed Services Committee that U.S. intelligence community determined ISIS-K could be ready to attack the West in 6 months to a year. And, oh, by the way, al-Qaeda could be ready for such an attack in 1 to 2 years. It's almost as if, like, they were warned of this. The Biden administration was warned of this, and they decided to do this anyway, push through with their, I would say, plan, but I don't think it really was much of a plan anyway. And here we're seeing the effects, the ramifications of that. Your thoughts, Sean?
Well, I think it should be extremely concerning to every American. This is a threat to our homeland, to our national security, to our way of life. And I think this idea that we're not ready for it. I mean, they're talking about this capability continuing to evolve and have and pose a threat to us is something that fundamentally that's the number one job of a government, to protect its people at any level. And the idea that this is happening more and more and no one's focusing the appropriate time or attention on it, it's concerning. I think after what happened, especially in Afghanistan with that pullout, number one, it made us more vulnerable. Number two, it sent a signal to our allies that we're not as serious as we should be.
Yeah. Jason, I weigh in on Sean's thoughts here because I know you're also former military.
Right. Agree with everything Sean just said. And I think that there's even something more disturbing that they're setting us up for. Mm-hmm. I think that's, we could say that's almost evergreen with this administration. What are they setting us up for later on down the line? Something far more terrifying. I do not like the wording that he used, the Pentagon official. I do not like the wording that he used with this. They undersold the threat from al-Qaeda on this. And I just fear that they're setting us up for in the future, hey, yes, we're cooperating with the Taliban. Yes, we're moving in tandem with them to strike the threat of ISIS-K. First of all, I don't like the fact that we're dealing with a terrorist group at all. Yeah. I definitely don't think that our military should be cooperating towards anything. Right now, the Taliban is a terrorist group that has the capability to strike outside its borders. Al-Qaeda also has the capability of attacking outside its borders. ISIS-K is just one of them. Mm-hmm. But if you think that the Taliban right now is more concerned with, as he alluded to, is more concerned with ISIS-K, that they might be able, about to strike American citizens or other parts of the world, that's not their main objective right now. In fact, in many cases, they're probably working together. Yeah. Many historical examples of that happening between terrorist groups. Al-Qaeda stayed in Iran, of all places, that many people are like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Well, when your common enemy is very, very clear and in front of you, the United States, you're going to cooperate. Bad people are going to cooperate. But look for that in the future. Look for it and say, Jason told you so, when they're like, yes, we're striking ISIS-K alongside the Taliban. Yeah, we're not partners here.
Jason, I will say that, the funny thing is you're absolutely right, but that's the scary part, is that we're going to have to look back at some point and you're going to go, you know what, Jason was right about this. We shouldn't I mean, I look at this the same way I look at China. Like, we know it's happening. It's literally like waking up one day and you're going, oh, the weather says it's going to rain today. Yep, it's going to rain. And then you walk out, and on the way home, you go, I can't believe I got soaking wet and ruined my brand new suit.
Right.
It's like you saw the report, you read the weather report, you knew it was going to rain, and then you go, I can't believe that I didn't have an umbrella. You knew it was happening. We know this is coming. Like, it amazes me how blatantly obvious this is. And yet there is a lack of alarm throughout all levels of government.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's so true. And I mean, to your point, kind of circling back to Afghanistan, a Pentagon official just yesterday said that there are still nearly 450 American citizens. I think the number is about 439. And this is coming from the Pentagon, so who knows if there are more. They are still stranded in Afghanistan, but he says, well, they're just not ready to come home, some of them. Let's listen to him quickly.
In terms of how many American citizens we estimate are currently in Afghanistan, the Department of State is in contact with 196 American citizens who are ready to depart, and arrangements are being made for them to do so either via air or over ground. And another 243 American citizens have been contacted and are not ready to depart, either because they want to stay in Afghanistan or aren't ready.
Sean, your thoughts on that?
I don't understand. That doesn't make sense to me, because Jen Psaki said that there were no Americans stranded there. She told us from the White House, and she tells us that she's a truth teller. So I don't understand how that adds up, because the White House was clear. Nobody was being stranded. So that just doesn't make sense to me, how suddenly now the State Department's saying 100 and change are still there. This just blows my mind.
It's almost as if Jen Psaki isn't actually telling the truth on this. Almost, I don't know. It's just a hunch that I have here. Savannah, give me your thoughts on what's going on in Afghanistan.
So on Slightly Offensive, we talk more about culture issues, and we've been focusing a lot on the U.S. military and how we've seen the LGBTQ indoctrination of our military members, of our intelligence agencies right now. And that's what I've been focused on. That's what me and Elijah have really, touched on here. It's like, look at our military right now in the U.S. We seem very weak. On top of that, we have weak leadership. Joe Biden is a very weak leader. Everyone was saying, oh, Donald Trump, we don't like his mean tweets, but he was respected. Everyone said we were a laughingstock, but look at North Korea right now, look at China right now, and look at ISIS-K about to attack the West in the next 6 months. Our foreign enemies right now, or these foreign countries, they don't fear us. They don't see America as a stronghold anymore, because we are currently being led by an extremely weak man.
Yeah, Sean, I have a feeling that kind of ties into your book, Radical Nation. We have this administration that is focusing on all of these things, including, as Savannah pointed out, making sure to, check off boxes on how many trans people are in the military instead of focusing on building up a strong military.
Well, look, I make two main cases in the book. One is to your point about the people. Think about it. I walked through both people that were confirmed and unconfirmed. Pete Buttigieg, 38 years old. He's the Secretary of Transportation. He ran a city of 100,000, South Bend, Indiana, that has 66 buses. And now he's head of our railways, seaways, airways. And when he was confirmed, Biden said to him, I'm pleased that I have the first openly gay head of a department. Obviously, Rick Grenell had been in the cabinet, so he couldn't say that. And then he said, I'm also pleased that he's one of the youngest. So it wasn't about his qualifications. It was about the boxes that he checked. And we're now dealing with the consequences of that. The second is the policies that these folks are pursuing. And we just talked about this. At the end of the day, they're getting these guys are pursuing policies that are trying to get permanent political power, not make the country better or stronger. And I think that those are two clarion calls that every American has got to hear, because it is no wonder where we are as a country when you look at the policies that are being pursued and the people that are trying to implement them.
Yeah, I totally agree. Jason, your thoughts?
Going back to what Sav was saying about what they're doing, just even to the morale of our soldiers. If you want to absolutely destroy the morale of a U.S. soldier, tell a U.S. soldier that he has to leave U.S. citizens behind in a country, in a combat zone. That is the number one thing. And that's effectively exactly what they did. Initially, they were like, oh, there's 200 people, still like, if they want to go, there's around 200 of them. Then they said there's around 100 of them. They made it seem like it was starting to sound better, maybe we were getting them out somehow. Now it's like over 400. Now you're going down and up all over the place. If you ask independent people that actually were keeping better tracks of this than our stupid government is doing right now.
The ones who were actually trying to get people out?
They were actually trying to do the job. It was well over 3,000 to 4,000 Americans at some point. At this point, I do not know how many Americans are over there. I actually think the administration does, but they're too chicken to actually say, to reveal what the disaster that they created and left us with. It's absolutely despicable.
Jason, just to be clear, you have a complicit media. Why isn't anybody asking that question?
I know.
Why isn't anyone in the media asking, hey, you're giving conflicting numbers. What's really going on? And that's exactly what you're getting at. Because the idea that the White House says nobody's stranded, then the State Department comes out via the Defense Department says 196. I'm sorry. At some point, any curious reporter would say, I don't understand. How can you say no one and then 196? And yet there is zero curiosity from the press corps. And it's something I lay out in the book that in 2 chapters. The bottom line is this press corps is an extension of the White House press office. They do everything they can to ensure that nothing bad comes out about this administration, and that the double standards, the hypocrisy, the failed policies, nothing bad is covered, and only the good comes out.
Yeah. Okay, so Sean, I have to ask you, we mentioned Jen Psaki earlier, White House press secretary. Does your head explode whenever you watch her on screen? Because mine does, and I didn't do the job, so I'm just curious.
I think I kind of look and go, where was this? I mean, there's no one jumping up and down like a hyena trying to get her attention. They all sit there like a bunch of well-trained prep school kids that are just like, Miss Psaki, may I have the next question when you have a moment? Bathroom. I look at that and I'm like, holy smokes, I wish I had 2 or 3 people like that. That's what I actually have the bigger issue with, is to think, how are these even remotely some of the same people? They're not holding anybody accountable. You watch her say things that are diametrically opposed to what she said the previous day, or something that somebody else from the administration has said, and nobody thinks to themselves, I might want to ask about that.
Yeah, it is really frustrating. All right, Sean, last question, and maybe you answer this in the book. And feel free to tell me you got to buy the book and read it in order to know the answer to this. But can we get out of this? Because you and I, we report the news every day, and it's really depressing. We try to make it fun here, but it is really depressing. We have this administration who's doing all these things, as you mentioned. Can we get out of this?
Yes. The answer is, and the last chapter of the book is a conservative action plan. It's an agenda that says if you don't like, and that's why I'm so excited when I see people in like Loudoun County, Virginia, or others getting involved in these school board hearings. Because if we're willing to go out there and fight for our country, to post things online and not being scared of being canceled, then yes. But the left wins when we're silent. The left wins when we don't vote. So we need to go out there and ensure that our voices are heard, that we tweet, that we post, that we get involved, we show up at school board hearings, and if we can, that we run for office, that we get our kids involved in whether it's Campus Reform, Young America's Foundation, Turning Point USA. There are organizations and groups out there that will help defend us if we want. But the answer is, if you sit back and allow them to silence you, they win.
Yeah, that's a great answer. All right. Thank you so much, my friend, Sean Spicer, author of the new book, You Need to Have Radical Nation, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's Dangerous Plan for America. We'll see you again soon, Sean.
I appreciate it. Thank you for always coming on my show. It's treat.
Yes, thank you. I'm glad to do a trade-off this time. All right, so before we go to break, we got to thank our sponsor, Omega XL. So whether it is back pain, knee pain, shoulder pain, whatever the case may be, usually it is inflammation that is causing your pain, and you got to defeat that inflammation, or else it can cause permanent damage in your body. You're not going to realize that. You're going to be stuck with permanent damage. That's why you got to try Omega XL. It is backed by 35 years of clinical research. It attacks the inflammation that is causing your pain. So it's not going to be like when you rub a topical cream on and you're like, oh my gosh, this feels so good for 10 minutes, and then you're in pain again. Don't do that, all right? Omega XL will neutralize that inflammation and solve your problem. This is made from an essential fatty acid combination from the waters of New Zealand. It is natural and it works. Okay, all of you men out there are like, I don't take natural stuff. Well, if you want to get out of pain, you need to take it. All right, order Omega XL now. Get a second bottle for free over at omegaxl.com/news. That is a buy one, get one over at omegaxl.com/news. Allegedly, the Democrats are very, very frustrated behind the scenes over their stalled reconciliation spending spree. As expected, as we talk about so often on the show, you have these two factions of the Democrat Party now, with the radical fringe left, socialists, communists, we'll just call them, and then you have the more moderate Democrats, establishment members. I mean, they're not a ton of them left, but they're still enough to cause a problem. So there have been nonstop talks between, of course, Manchin, Sinema, Jim Clyburn has been at the White House. The Congressional Black Caucus was at the White House, and they have this deadline coming up, and they are unsure now if they were going to meet it. Of course, Hoyer, the House Majority Leader, said yesterday that a deal could come in a matter of hours. That deal did not come. A deal appears unlikely today or tomorrow unless Democrats can overcome the stumbling blocks on policies from Medicare expansion to immigration to the billionaire tax to an IRS bank account reporting requirement. I mean, there is a lot that they have to accomplish. I don't think it's going to get done, especially when you have Sinema and Manchin saying what they are saying publicly. So Democrats, they have this self-imposed deadline. It doesn't look like they are going to meet it, at least from what I'm reading. Do you guys, do you think that they will come through with this?
I think eventually they'll get a deal done. I don't think it's going to come.
Not a $3.5 trillion.
No, definitely not a 3.5. I'm scared of it no matter the price tag, because, and everyone, when this does eventually pass, everyone needs to read it.
And that's what I was going to ask you, Jason.
But
Isn't this the 2,000-page bill? Is that the reconciliation bill? We are constantly seeing all of these bills being pushed on the American people. They're trying to push them through Congress, get them signed, 3.5 trillion. Where's all this money going towards? Because they always sneak all of these things into these bills that, really don't need to be funded.
Yeah, like what was that one thing that basically it was a provision that, like, a pilot program to start tracking how many miles you do. There's stuff like that tucked into this thing.
Exactly.
So that and so it's so.
Well, they have to pass the bill to find out what's in it.
Right.
That's how things work.
That's the standard.
We make the law and then it's implemented and everyone's like, wait, when did this happen?
Yeah. No. You just trust us. We know what we're doing. We'll pass it, and you can find out what's in it when you're in the breadline.
Right. Which is a good thing, if you ask Bernie Sanders.
Exactly.
I'm really, I don't know if to say worried, but I'm really interested in what happens to the Democrat Party, because the Overton window has swung so far to the left. You remember back in the day, it wasn't too long ago, where they wouldn't say the word progressive.
Yes.
I remember when Glenn was first going on Fox and he was saying the word progressive, and people were calling him a conspiracy theorist. They're like, oh, they're not progressives, like they're not saying that. Then you go into a presidential debate maybe a couple years after that, and they're fighting each other over who's the biggest progressive. And now the progressive caucus in the Democratic Party is pretty dang powerful. And I mean, not only that, you talk about the Overton window, they are actually calling themselves democratic socialists.
Well, and to your point, there was actually, apparently in this story, the report is that there was one moderate Democrat, they were not named, but they actually said, it's the effing progressives.
Sounds like
asking for unreasonable things. It's the effing progressives.
It's so interesting to see, too, because I've only been following politics for maybe 3 or 4 years now. When I was in college, didn't know the 3 branches of government. Now that I've been following it, it's so interesting to see how Democrats are so split within their own party because, yes, like they're saying, there are people, part of the party, like AOC, Rashida Tlaib, Ayanna Pressley, that are so progressive that they're radical at this point, and we've seen that time and time again. Their entire party is going crazy. And I don't know. I kind of like watching them destroy themselves from within. It's funny to me. Not funny for our country, though. Not fun to have to go through.
Well, it is nice to be on the other side of it for a change, because usually it's the Republicans who are fighting out in the open. Historically, you know, they don't save it for behind closed doors, and it's just embarrassing and a disaster for the entire world to watch. Here, at least now, the shoe is on the other foot, and we can see it happening to them.
The problem is that that party is morphing into something. And the progressive wing's only going to get stronger.
Yeah.
Like I get all the like AOC's rabid fan base. I do not. I've never heard of a more uninformed person.
But
and I guess all of her followers
really
are equally
voting?
informed.
I would say that they are, because I've gone to, again, like a lot of these protests and rallies that I've covered extensively. Like, people did go out and vote, and they do go and try to rally. And I mean, say what you will about our, voting system in this country, very fortified.
Well, I mean, that's what you do when you have the most popular president in American history. You fortify.
Exactly. So it's like, even if they aren't voting, lucky for Joe Biden and the Democrats, we have very fortified elections either way. I mean, it is what it is.
Well, so, we're talking about this reconciliation bill, the spending spree that they want to go on with American taxpayer money. So that is one of their agendas, obviously. Another one we mentioned on the program, I believe it was yesterday, the first ever national gender strategy, with all of this hogwash about, we need more access to health care, which really they meant we want more abortions. We want more women in the military. Go ahead, Jason.
Because I wasn't here for that.
Yeah.
I thought that was really interesting that was released on a Friday afternoon. The week before that, they released their policy or whatever they called it on climate. And both of those things together, that both released on Friday afternoons, hoping no one would even look at it or talk about it.
Right before the weekend, when everyone's taking time off.
Totally, always look thin. But what's crazy is when we were first starting to cover the Great Reset, we found all of these standards and guidelines from the UN that were putting pressure on banks and other organizations to adhere to ESG standards. Now, I looked at both of those things, the gender equality and the climate agenda, and they were almost word for word from the UN documents on how to enforce ESG. They're setting something up huge for that. It's going to be major, but they're actually setting up federal enforcement for people to adhere to ESG. It's coming.
Wow. So going back to what I was originally saying before Jason derailed, with a very important point, I will say. It was an important point. But so they are laying the groundwork for all of these agendas. Add into the mix, because it's not like we're going through complete chaos. It's not like we have record high levels of inflation.
No.
The
supply chain issues.
Supply chain issues. The economy's fine. Nobody's working because they're getting paid to stay at home, and they're sitting on their lazy asses. But we also, very, very important, today, the Biden administration has issued or is issuing their first passport with an X gender marker for people who refuse to identify themselves as male or female. And I don't know if you knew this, but there is a U.S. Special Diplomatic Envoy for LGBTQ rights. This person's name is Jessica Stern. Did you know this, Jason?
No.
The U.S. Special Diplomatic Envoy for LGBTQ rights, Jessica Stern, calls the moves historic and celebratory, saying they bring the government documents in line with the, quote, lived reality, end quote, that there is a wider spectrum of human sex characteristics than is reflected in the previous two designations. She said, when a person obtains identity documents that reflect their true identity, they live with greater dignity and respect. We see this as a way of affirming and uplifting the human rights of trans and intersex and gender nonconforming and non-binary people everywhere. So it's good, Savannah, to see that the Biden administration is focusing on the important things in this country right now.
I'm just sitting here trying not to scream my head off. Because while China is focusing on making their men more masculine, building up their military, testing hypersonic missiles, North Korea just put out a military training video where they were breaking bricks with sledgehammers on their abs. And what are we focused on here in the U.S.? We're focused on gender equality and inclusivity and making sure that we're catering to the mentally ill in society. No, I'm done with it. This is absolutely ridiculous. I don't understand why Kamala Harris is using her Twitter account, Vice President, to push gender equality nonsense when women are equal in this country. And again, just, in basic biology, men and women are not inherently equal. We are different biologically in every way. And it's just ridiculous that we've gotten to this point in society where we're catering to these people. We have this entire administration pandering to the gay community when we have Americans still stranded in Afghanistan. What the hell's going on with this administration?
Jason, hard to follow up. Go ahead.
Well, it's funny to me because a passport is basically just an international ID card, when you boil it down to it. So what's the point of an ID if it doesn't represent your ID?
That's a great point.
Right, you know what I mean? Not only that, I'm trying to figure out, think through all the problems this is going to be when you go to other countries.
Mm-hmm.
What happens when you go to Saudi Arabia and you show this thing that doesn't show?
Maybe don't go there.
Maybe don't go there. Yeah. But I think there's only a handful of countries that are even going to accept this. What does this say for healthcare? When let's say you have a health emergency or something you go to some of these places.
Jason, I went to the doctor the other day and they said, "What's your gender? Male, female, non-binary?" And then there's this
Shut up, they did not.
There was a whole list of options, and I'm like, this is why I don't come to the doctor, because how am I going to trust the doctor with my body when they don't even adhere to basic biology?
Right, when they don't, yeah. God, get a new doctor.
I know.
You have to now.
I can't. I'm so done with society right now.
Well, you mentioned China, so okay, so they invented a missile that defies physics. We can defy biology in this country.
So who's the real winner here? There we go. I was saying this. I was like, you think the Chinese are going to come and take over America and say, what is your preferred pronoun before we put you in jail here?
No.
Well, at least they'll ask before you get escorted to their camps.
Yeah, exactly.
To their re-education camps. All right, we've got more to come. First, we want to thank our sponsor, Tommy John. So, what is the perfect companion in cooler weather? You might think maybe it's your significant other, ladies, but it's the comfort of getting cozy in new Tommy John loungewear. All right, I have talked to you about my experience with Tommy John, and when I say that, what I mean is I just, usually at the end of a workday, I don't like to be bothered by my family until I have changed out of my dress into my Tommy John loungewear. It fits perfectly. It is made with it's made with what is softer than the softest thing that you've ever put on your body. That's what it's made from. It is this tri-blend fabric. It is the softest thing you will ever put on your body. By the way, when you wash it, you're not going to get a bunch of lint balls or fuzz because of the material that they use. And it's dryer safe because I have decided a long time ago in my life, once you have kids, you don't have time for dry cleaning. You don't have time to hang a bunch of stuff up. Wash it, dry it in the dryer, and wear it again because you're going to want to wear it every single day. So usually I talk to you men out there about Tommy John, but I just want to make sure you women realize they have got a bunch of stuff for you, and it is all just as comfortable as all of the menswear. By the way, returns and exchanges are always free, and all of these are backed by best pair you'll ever wear or it's free guarantee. So you've got nothing to lose. You can get 20% off your first order right now at TommyJohn.com/Y. That's TommyJohn.com/Y for 20% off. TommyJohn.com/Y. See site for details. Dr. Eric Rubin, who sits on the Food and Drug Administration Independent Advisory Panel, justified recommending the Pfizer COVID vaccine for young children yesterday by deferring to potential upsides despite the unknown side effects. I'm not sure. I know I saw the video at one point. I'm not sure if we have it in the control room, but his problem was that, the data shows that the vaccine works and it's pretty safe. We're worried about a side effect that we can't measure yet, but it's probably real. But he says it's really going to be a question of what the prevailing conditions are. But we're never going to learn about how safe this vaccine is unless we start giving it. That's just the way it goes, which is, look, it's just that this is what we've been telling you people for the last 2 years, is that you are the guinea pig and you are the experiment. And I understand if you want to do that to yourself as an adult, you are free to do that. And I am here to support your choice, your right to make that decision for yourself. However, we are talking about giving this blah, blah, as my friend Chad Prather said to call it. Thank you, YouTube overlords. Giving this drug to children as young as 5 years old and saying, we just aren't going to find out whether or not it is that safe for them until we start doing it, is like, that is, to me, it's criminal. It's absolutely criminal. It's child abuse. If you do this, I saw a tweet from someone the other day that was a mother on Twitter. I don't know who the heck she was. She had a blue check mark. I don't know who she was. But she just posted a picture of her 4-year-old son's arm with a Band-Aid on it and said, I am so proud my son was a part of the trial for vaccines for children, you know, this young, a 4-year-old. And I'm like, you should be thrown in jail. Thrown in jail, lock away the key, do not give kids to this woman because that is child abuse. So here we are, the FDA admitting, by the way, the panel, we talked about this yesterday, the panel did recommend 17-0 to allow giving this to children as young as 5. But we can't measure the side effect yet. Don't worry, guys. We're never going to learn about how safe this vaccine is unless we start giving it. That's just the way it goes. So if you have a child who is harmed by this, that's just the way it goes.
I'm curious the sales pitch for some of these parents. So are they like, I mean, I'm just kind of
It's 90.7% effective, Jason. Well, I can think of something that might be a little more effective.
Well, what's crazy is the risk is basically 0. And then the vaccine also improves that risk to 0?
Yeah, you know what's funny
how are you
is that
selling that?
I think their natural immune system is like 99.999% effective. I think I'm not great at math. Think that's a little better than 90.
Remember the Johns Hopkins study that came out of 48,000 children who had no underlying conditions. The mortality rate for COVID, 0.
Yeah.
Right.
0%.
Right.
But we need to give this drug to them for some reason.
There's a reason why a lot of people that were criticizing Trump and they were saying, oh, he's saying that this vaccine is going to come out quick. But the reality is we're looking at, I think they were giving like a 10-year time span or something like that on a vaccine. There's a reason they were saying that. Because usually when they go through all the trials, how they're supposed to be, it takes they go through focus groups, they go through a bunch of stuff.
It takes 8 to 10 years typically to research a vaccine.
Right, and they have to figure out what the long-term effects are going to be. Look, everyone that's been given the blah blah, there's been no long-term study on that.
Right.
You are the long-term study.
Right.
Now it's amazing to me that you would subject that to children. It makes no sense.
When they are not at risk.
Exactly, and I will make this point: if something, God forbid, does happen, and people, kids, adults, whatever, they start to have side effects, which there's already, some cases where that's happened. There's not really a whole, I mean, if you think that you're going to go after that pharmaceutical company.
No, you ain't.
Exactly. They can't be held liable for this. And we're all being told like, hey, everyone just take this. And then after you take it, then the NIH will finally conduct studies on the long-term, fertility effects on women, maybe how it's going to affect your child or adverse effects that are going to happen. But we need you to try it out first so we can figure that out.
You know when that happened? Because I'm researching for this special. You know when that happened? Yes. So we were talking earlier that you have to read everything. I think it was, I might be getting this date wrong, but I think it was in 2013, and Congress had this act, but it was for the response and appropriations for response to hurricanes in the Gulf of Mexico. Now, all of a sudden tucked into is like 199 pages, and yes, I had to read 109 pages. Page 199 was, and also the research for vaccines. We're going to give a waiver of liability for the pharmaceutical companies that are making this. We'll take care of them, but they won't be liable for.
So that might be for emergency use ones, because I know that there was an act that was passed in 1986.
Yes, it was for emergency use. Emergency use vaccines.
Are you talking about the 1986 one?
No, the one that was in 2013.
Okay. Well, but a lot of people don't even realize that the vaccines that we are giving our children right now, you still can't sue any of the pharmaceutical manufacturers. All of the ones that have been tested already, that have been tested for the 8 to 10 years, as you guys mentioned, you still cannot sue them. They passed a law in 1986 that said that you could not sue them. There is a government court, and good luck getting anything and getting a hold of anyone and passing all of those big bureaucracy ladders that they put into place in order to get your case heard in the government court.
And you know what? On top of people not being able to, or these big pharma companies not being able to be held liable for any adverse effects. On top of all of that, you know what, Jason, go ahead with your point. I cut you off and then I got nervous. Go.
Oh no!
I'm like, wait, go.
No.
I was just going to say, it was just a little nugget. That year that change happened for emergency use vaccinations, you know what was just published that same year?
What?
Dr. Barrick's research on modifying coronaviruses.
Really?
That same year. Put your tinfoil hat on, whatever. I'm just giving the knowledge. It's
Interesting.
there. Kind of a coincidence, right?
That is a strange coincidence. I wonder if we'll hear any more about that.
I think you might on this network pretty soon.
Interesting. Can't wait for that. All right, we've got more to come, but let's go ahead and take a break. Before that, we want to thank new sponsor of the show, Ladder. So life insurance is, of course, a product that a lot of people don't think about until it's too late, but you really have to, because it allows you to provide for your family if the unthinkable happens. I think the people, they're like, you want to block out anything like that from your head, but you can't, all right? You got to be smart. On that note, it makes sense why people get life insurance, especially term coverage. It's very, very affordable. But why not pay a little bit each month to protect the ones that you love? If you're asking yourself this question, you got to choose Ladder. Ladder is 100% digital, no doctors, no needles, no paperwork when you apply for $3 million in coverage or less. All right, you just need a few minutes and a phone or a laptop to apply. They've got these algorithms that work in real time, so you can find out instantly if you are approved. If you prefer to talk to a person, which I don't, but if you prefer to talk to a person, their team of licensed agents, they don't work on commission, so they can help you and not upsell you. They truly want to make sure that you are in the right policy for you. They don't have any hidden fees. You can cancel anytime. You can get a full refund if you change your mind in the first 30 days. It's a free look. All right. Ladder policies are issued by insurers with long proven histories of paying claims. Since life insurance costs more as you age, you got to do it now. Do not wait until you are way older and then you're going to go, what the heck happened? This life insurance skyrocketed. They told me I was going to pay way cheaper 30 years ago. Don't do that. All right. You got to go there now. Protect your family. They are important to you. They love you. You love them. Don't wait until it's too late. Go to ladderlife.com/Y today. You will see if you are instantly approved. That is ladder, LADDER, life.com/Y, ladderlife.com/Y. In-N-Out, the fast food chain that we talked about, what was it, last week, who had just had one of their locations shut down by the health inspector because they were refusing to basically police people's vaccination status. They have had another location shut down in Contra Costa County after, again, workers failed to check customers' vaccination status, and that violated the county's vaccine mandate. So they've now had 2 locations closed. And In-N-Out, I mean, we heard it from them the last time that this happened. They're like, yeah, we're here to serve you burgers and fries. We're not here to be the vaccine police, and we're not going to violate people's rights like that. And now they are. These people, oh gosh, these people are out for them. Yeah, that's okay. So that's me from last week. And I got to tell you, if you watch this program, by the way, that's a lettuce wrap. I did not have the bun. But if
shocked.
Yes,
shocked
well, right. That's what I was going to say. I never eat fast food. And I got to tell you, I'm not a huge In-N-Out fan when it comes to their burgers or their it's okay. I'm not on the bandwagon that they're just amazing and the best thing and better than Whataburger at all. Come at me, bro. I don't care. But I had to go because I was like, I have to support this company. They're standing up for all of our rights. They are standing up for freedom in this country. And we have to start supporting the companies who are doing that. Now, they've lost another location. I don't know how long they will be down, but they've got fines. They've got 4 citations. And now they are known as an immediate health hazard to the public, according to the county inspector. So this is going to be interesting to see how this plays out because In-N-Out is very beloved on the West Coast, in that area, by a lot of lefties who I think are going to be have very mixed feelings about the fact that In-N-Out is not the vaccine police.
Right, and I honestly think that we should let these policies play out. If that's how California wants to run their state, then let them do that. And then all of the companies that aren't able to run in California, we're seeing Tesla came to Texas, we'll see In-N-Out come over here as well, because they're being pushed out of that state. What's going to be left in California? Not a lot of great stuff over there. So let this policy go. Let the Democrats and all of these liberals and progressives continue to try to push these companies to be the, again, especially a fast food company, to be the arbiter of health for some reason. We saw a video a couple months back of this old woman getting kicked out of a Burger King because she couldn't show her COVID passport or her vaccine passport. And it's like, if you're at a fast food restaurant, I don't think that you care about your health 100%. Like, let's start off there. So it's absolutely ridiculous. And it's like, you know what, let California destroy themselves at this point.
Yeah, that's a great point. You said, like, what's left in California, and all I can think of is, like, well, there's a lot of
safe
poop.
Injection sites?
Yeah, there's a lot of needles. There's a lot of homeless people.
High taxes.
There's a lot of taxes. Yeah. That's about it.
I just want to say I really loved your senior picture photo shoot over there at In-N-Out. Those were better than my senior pictures, actually, I think.
I hate you. Actually, I was much larger in my senior year, so those were not, that would be fitting, that I was eating a burger.
To tag on to what Savannah said, I agree. I think a lot more of these companies are going to have to, just by necessity, are going to have to start moving out of some of these progressive hellholes. Yeah. But I think red states need to do a better job of kind of advertising that, hey, come on down. Here's some tax incentives.
Do we want that, though?
Yes.
I'm torn on that, right? Because
okay,
you mentioned Tesla, too, and I'm like,
yes,
but what about all the employees that move there?
Yeah, all the liberals are going to follow suit, and they're going to come in and bring in those policies
That's why we're
that
purple now,
originally
basically.
destroyed their states.
Yeah.
So eventually this war of ideas has to be won. And if they want to continue running their way, I mean, we talk about a parallel society. Let that other part of the society continue to do with what they're doing. This is a perfect example of how our ideas are better than yours. You can't even keep your businesses. But we have to be able to communicate that. Yeah, we have to be able.
Because that's the problem.
Completely agree. Yeah,
is that they don't realize it. They're moving here and they're still voting the same damn way that they voted when they turned that place into a hellhole.
Right. No, I totally agree. That has got to be something that changes for sure. But I think that's inevitable. I think that red states need to band together to figure out how they're going to attack that or how they're going to handle that. Because it's just going to, the insanity of people that I hear. They're like, oh yeah, it was too much in taxes in California. That's why I left. And oh man, I couldn't afford a house, blah, blah, blah. Couldn't get a job. So I moved to Texas. Oh, and I'm voting for Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
What? I mean, what?
Exactly.
Are you listening to yourself right now?
Yeah, if you go to Austin, it's essentially mini LA.
Yeah,
They tried to pass the homeless ordinance, and they did for a couple years. And I watched, and that's why I became very right-wing, if you will, because I watched Democrat policy destroy that once beautiful city, overrun with homelessness. The crime skyrocketed. Women were not safe to walk on the streets at night. And it's just like, yeah, leave that in California, leave that in New York. Feel free to destroy your own states. Don't bring that to Texas. Don't come over here with that. Just don't do it.
Last point I have on this is always look forward to where they're going with some of these policies. Now, it's obvious, like with In-N-Out, they're showing that this is not enforceable.
Yeah,
like, you can mandate the hell out of this. Right. It's not enforceable.
Right.
Okay, so what's going to be their solution to fix that? Talk about the vaccine passport. Talk about an app on your phone, whatever. Do you think that the location services are not going to always be on that app? Of course they are. When they talk about contact tracing, all that stuff, that's how they eventually begin to enforce this. So what's that mean? That means nonstop surveillance on wherever you go at all times. If you go somewhere and you don't have your vaccine passport or whatever, then you get fined, or that business gets fined, or something. But that is the direction they're going to. It's no longer a conspiracy theory at this point.
Jason, see, and they did a really good job too. The COVID passports, I feel like were a gateway for that, because now it's like, oh, well, this is for your health and safety. And it's like, okay, well, then the government's going to introduce you getting microchipped to monitor your blood pressure, make sure that you're safe. And like you said, it's going to be tracking up with the government of everyone.
Well, this is great. We're just ending this on a terribly horrifying note. But we got to take a break. We'll be back. Awesome, guys. Thanks for the good news. I can't. So it was brought to my attention that I guess some of our program yesterday was left out of, like, YouTube didn't want it because, the YouTube overlords are always watching. So I just wanted to remind you guys, there is a way to make sure that you can get all of our content uncensored, no matter what the YouTube overlords think. You got to go to BlazeTV.com. You can save $10 when you sign up for the year if you use promo code NEWS. That will give you access to all of our libraries, including Slightly Offensive, where you can see our very own Savannah. I feel like I'm like a Vanna White, like showing the prize over here. Also, you can catch this guy Jason sometimes too. So make sure to sign up, guys.